welcome to Thunder Steve 85 Gaming. If you guys are new to the channel, please do me a favor, like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. So, today's a big day. Obviously, a big announcement just happened. Sony announced on their Twitter and I believe on their blog post that we are getting a PlayStation showcase. So, I'm pretty excited. I look forward to these every year. I have been watching E3 since 95 or 6. I think it was like when I first read about it in Nintendo Power, when they were talking about Project Reality back in the day, which of course turned into the Nintendo 64 that we all know and love. So it's always an exciting time, I think, for all of us. And I think for me, the most exciting part is trying to think of what might show up there. You know, obviously, like, we have these games that we hope show up. We have the realistic predictions. We have like the somewhat unrealistic, but ones that we think maybe could happen and that would be pretty exciting. So with that said, I want to kind of give a rundown of what's going on, and then we're going to get into some predictions. So again, Sony officially announced today that a week from today, on May 24th, we're going to be treated to an hour-long presentation, which is very long for Sony. Usually the showcases are about, maybe 20, 30 minutes. So to get one that's clocking it at an hour is pretty cool. That means we're probably going to be seeing a lot of games, guys. So again, just another reason why I'm excited. But again, they're going to be showing us games that, of course, we can look forward to playing during the second half of 2022 on both the PS5 and the PSVR 2. So again, many of us have been hoping that Sony was going to make some sort of announcement to showcase their latest efforts, given the fact that E3 is canceled this year. We didn't have it last year. The timing of the event really was completely up to Sony. So in actuality, we're getting the lowdown on everything PlayStation earlier than we would have, since E3 typically takes place in the middle of June. So let's take that as kind of our first victory together as far as video game news goes, because not only are we talking Sony, we need to hear what Xbox is doing for the second half, and Nintendo. Because with Nintendo right now, all we know is we got Pikmin 4 coming in the fall. Outside of that, who knows? So looking forward to hopefully the other big two of the big three, Nintendo and Microsoft, hopefully announcing soon what's going to happen. But with that said, guys, let's kind of jump into it. So the first thing that comes to, of course, like, I think every fan's minds is, you know, I wonder what game will be there, or I wonder if we're going to hear anything about fill in the blank, right? Whatever game you're thinking of. Whatever long dormant franchise usually that we're hoping, you know, will be resurrected. And what I'm ultimately here to discuss today is my predictions, whether they be realistic or unrealistic. I think for the most part, though, after going through them, I think they're pretty realistic, guys. So at the end of the video, what I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below is, what are your predictions? Do you agree with mine? Do you disagree? Is there something I missed? I'm sure there's going to be some games I missed, so let's dive in. So to start it out, guys, these are my realistic predictions. I'm going to start with Konami first. So I got to ask, like, what are you guys doing here? There's been official news and rumors over the past 2 years about Konami reportedly being open to outsourcing their most popular IP, be it Metal Gear, Castlevania, Contra, you name it. Now, if you think about it, we've already witnessed some outsourcing, be it smaller scale, with their Castlevania IP, because we got the awesome Dead Cells Return to Castlevania DLC, which, if you haven't played it yet, you should. And if you're interested in seeing gameplay, I'll leave a link below for you, because I actually live streamed it on the channel. So what I want to see from Konami, first and foremost, I think, is Metal Gear, because I think it's probably the most realistic game that we can get, like, right now. So I'll really take Metal Gear in any form. For those of you who may not know, Metal Gear was taken down back in 2021 from all online stores, be it Sony, Microsoft, Steam, you name it. Since then, rumors have come up that Konami was working on a Metal Gear Solid trilogy. Then another report came out that they're working on a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Not a remaster, but a remake. And then there was even a rumor that there would be a Metal Gear fully playable, wait for it, on the PSVR 2, which would be awesome. And obviously that game would sort of act as a killer app that would really bolster like the PSVR 2 hardware sales. So, for someone like me who bought the PSVR 2 on day one, I would really like to see them get some killer apps, because that's obviously going to improve the longevity that the PSVR 2 is supported by other developers, and hopefully it'll get other developers to jump on board. Now, ultimately, what I'd like to see from Konami is the return, though, of Castlevania. I'd love to see us get like a new Contra, but after getting the last Contra game, which to me was not a Contra game, guys, and I'm talking about Contra Rogue Core, I don't have much faith in their current Contra direction. I'd love to get a new Contra. I'd love for it to be a 2D side-scroller. I don't know what we're going to get. If you look at the spotty history with Konami and Contra, I actually did a video on it just recently, going through all of the Contra games and rating them. And there's just so many highs and lows, and the lows are really, really low. So I just don't know what to expect from them anymore. But what I'd really like, and I'm sure you guys would probably love it too, is just like give us a sequel to Symphony of the Night. And I know that's probably a lot to ask for. So if that's too much to ask, just give us a 2D Castlevania and I'll be like super hyped. And I know you guys will too. I think everybody would be. So outside of that, I think we will finally get a release date on Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster instead of the vague 2023 date that they've been using. I also think we'll receive an update on the previously announced Silent Hill 2 remake, possibly with it even releasing towards the later end of this year. We'll see. Now that we've discussed Konami, let's talk about what we can expect from the man responsible for Metal Gear, Mr. Hideo Kojima with Kojima Productions. So we got the first trailer for Death Stranding 2 at the Game Awards in 2022. So it really wasn't that long ago, and it doesn't feel like we're due for an update at this time. Plus, Hideo seems to have a really good working relationship or friendship with Jeff Keighley. So he might wait until the Summer Game Fest that was created and, of course, hosted by Jeff Keighley to give any sort of an update. So outside of Death Stranding, I would love to see a sequel to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, since that game was so heavily inspired by Symphony of the Night. Now, I do wonder if, given the fact that Konami said it was open to allowing other companies to use their IP, if given the fact that that's true, I am curious if Hideo and Konami maybe had some sort of discussion. Maybe they struck a deal. I mean, how cool would it be if both sides got along and just decided to call it water under the bridge? I mean, could you imagine if Kojima got to work on Metal Gear or Castlevania? That'd be pretty rad. I don't know what the odds are of that happening. It's probably pretty slim, but again, we can always hope, right? You never know. Finishing that up, guys, let's go to Naughty Dog, okay? Believe it or not, it's been almost 3 years since the release of The Last of Us Part 2 on the PS4. Therefore, I don't think it's out of the question for us to ask ourselves if we might see at least a teaser trailer for the next mainline entry in The Last of Us series. To me, it would make perfect sense for Sony to show us something related to The Last of Us universe in an effort to continue kind of moving that momentum forward, because obviously we had the amazing HBO show that really, got everybody excited. I watched the whole thing. I actually watched it pretty much on the premiere every night. I really enjoyed it. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly suggest watching it. I think you'd like it a lot. Don't forget that outside of The Last of Us Part 3 possibility, there's still the Last of Us Factions multiplayer game that was first announced back in September 2019. And I had to look that up because it's been so damn long. My guess is that the Last of Us Factions multiplayer is going to be one of the 10 live service games that Sony said it would be working on for the PS5 to be released by March 2026. And if you're not familiar with that, Sony had came out and said that they were going to be working on 10 live service games that will be released by March 2026. What those game titles are, we don't know. However, I would not be surprised if The Last of Us Factions multiplayer was one of them because, you know, it would probably have a pretty good chance of being successful if that was one of their live service games. Now, me personally, guys, I'm not really a fan of live service games because it all too often promotes a pay-to-win structure with fans spending real money to buy in-game items. And that's not something I'm into. I don't know about you guys, but I miss the good old days of being able to, you know, earn the items in the game, like even if you have to grind for them. But this pay-to-win structure, I'm not a fan of. I deal with it in NBA 2K all the time. It's very annoying. I see a lot of people spend a lot of money. I've actually seen people go into debt, like real life debt from this kind of stuff. So I know it's here to stay, but I'm just not a fan of it. So it is what it is. I got to ask, like, would Sony risk upsetting fans by implementing this common strategy that we see with these live service games by using a game like The Last of Us? I don't know. Maybe. It's hard to tell, but it could upset fans quite a bit if they came out with a live service Last of Us game, considering we've been waiting already 4 years. So for them to come out and then announce its live service might not go over well. So to piggyback on the last game that we just talked about, The Last of Us Factions multiplayer, I'm going to predict yet another live service game to be announced at the PlayStation Showcase, and that's the new Twisted Metal. So if you guys don't know, Twisted Metal, they're coming out with a TV show. It's coming to Peacock, so you'll be able to stream it on Peacock if you have it. The official teaser just hit the web about a month ago, and the show is actually set to begin streaming on July 27th. Timing-wise, it makes perfect sense to bring back Twisted Metal. We received the last Twisted Metal, and again, I had to look this up because it's been so damn long. It was more than a decade ago that we got our last Twisted Metal game that released on the PlayStation 3. It came out in 2012. So in my opinion, it's definitely time to bring back Twisted Metal. It might even be like overdue for a return, right? I personally, I have fond memories of renting Twisted Metal at Blockbuster back in the day and playing this game with my brothers and my cousins. So I think it would be really awesome to get a new Twisted Metal game running at, 60 or 120 frames per second in 4K that we could play online. It doesn't need to be much more than that. I think that would make a lot of fans happy. I know it would make me happy. Jumping over now to Insomniac. We're going to start there. So I think we got a decent amount of gameplay, release date, and pre-orders for Spider-Man 2. That's what I'm predicting. We're going to get some gameplay. We're going to get a firm release date, and we're going to get pre-orders that are going to open. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with a special edition Spider-Man PlayStation 5. I think they're going to go real big on this because, guys, let's face it. Spider-Man on PS4 did phenomenal. Miles Morales did phenomenal. So this is going to be probably Sony's biggest game, you got to imagine, for the second half of 2023. So I got to presume that Sony's banking on Spidey to really sell a lot of consoles, much like Ragnarok did in 2022. So outside of that, I think we may get a small update on Wolverine. Wolverine was first announced back in 2021. It was very early in development. So it would be cool to get a little bit of an update because all we saw was, a CGI trailer. The belief right now, according to the web, is that the game could launch as early as fall 2024. So given that it's been 2 years since it was first announced and we got that CGI trailer, we might might get lucky and get a little snippet of gameplay. I would appreciate that. Now moving on to my next prediction, guys, and it's about Sony's rumored handheld that's in development. And if you don't know about this, I'll go into some of the details here, but it's been said that the handheld would work in tandem with the PlayStation's remote play feature that anyone can currently access on their phones if they download the app. So for example, I have a Backbone 1 PlayStation Edition controller that you can insert your phone into. And I will say that the concept is very cool, which is actually, it's why I bought it. But much of it remains to me in theory. The ultimate part is that it honestly doesn't work that great. Like, to give you a comparison, the cloud PlayStation 3 games that are available through PlayStation Premium, they work better than the PlayStation Remote Play app. And the PlayStation 3 cloud games work terribly, right? I don't know if they work good for you, but they work horribly for me, guys. So sadly, it has issues connecting to the PS5, like even when I'm in the same room in my house. I could be like in this room right here where I have my PlayStation set up, and I could try to do the remote play, and the connection's not even that great. And I could have everything hooked up through a LAN cable, and I still have issues. And it's not my internet connection, trust me. Sadly, it's not in a good state, but I gotta wonder, Sony wouldn't be releasing a handheld, in my opinion, I gotta believe, unless they've nailed that down, right? Because that would be a major issue. There would be a lot of fans that were upset if they're trying to play a PS5 game through this new portable and you're getting audio clipping and slowdown and poor connections, because that's been my experience so far for the most part with the PlayStation Remote Play app. So I'm hoping that they figured all that out, and that's why they're actually going to release a portable gaming system. And I don't need another portable gaming system. You guys probably don't either. I have my Switch, I got my 3DS XL, and I got the analog pocket. I don't need, right? That's the key word here, need. I don't need another portable. Would I like one if PlayStation had a way to portably play PS5 games? Yeah, absolutely. It's just got to be done right. Hopefully we'll hear more about that. Moving on to the next prediction. This is an interesting one, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. But the PS5 Pro, okay? Too soon, you might say, right? Well, rumors have been flying around for what seems like almost a year now. The original PS4 released November 15th, 2013, guys. And the PS4 Pro came out 3 years later on November 10th, 2016. So honestly, all signs point to a PS5 Pro being announced sooner rather than later. Now, if I'm Sony, one reason I might hold off on announcing the PS5 Pro is because it took until August 2022 roughly to actually be able to see PS5s on store shelves, because it was so hard for everyone to find a PS5, of course, due to COVID and all the stock and manufacturing issues that came along with it. I'm just thinking many people just bought their PS5 within the last 6 to 12 months since it was just now available to the masses. So some fans, they might feel a little burned by it, but my guess is that it probably won't stop Sony from moving forward with their game plan. If they have a PS5 Pro ready to go, they might as well release it, right? People are going to buy it, it. So if we look to the past, guys, we can probably predict the future, have a good idea of what a PS5 Pro would offer, which is probably a better CPU, GPU, more memory, definitely a larger SSD, since the 1 terabyte it launched with wasn't enough storage 3 years ago when it came out. So the current PS5 already supports, believe it or not, and I think a lot of people probably don't know this or remember it or just seems irrelevant, but it does support 8K. I don't know anyone who has an 8K TV, so it's cool that it supports it. I just don't know if it's ever going to be really used in this PlayStation 5 generation. I guess only time will tell, but I suppose one thing I was thinking is that with a beefier CPU, GPU, memory, maybe with the PS5 Pro, one selling point would be that we wouldn't have to choose between a performance and a fidelity mode. And of course, guys, if you don't know, like when choosing performance mode in your game's graphical settings, the hardware will favor the frame rate over resolution. And when choosing fidelity mode, the PS5 will favor resolution and graphical detail like ray tracing over, of course, the frame rate. So you kind of have to choose like one or the other. Like, hey, do I want to have 60 frames per second? Or do I want to have, the 4K and the ray tracing, which I think when PS5 was first announced, we didn't think that we were going to have to choose between the two. I think a lot of us thought we were going to be getting both. That's kind of, I think, how it was presented to us. So it's kind of sucked, but I mean, it is what it is. The games still look fantastic, but it would be nice to have both. It's always nice to have both, right? So with that said, I got to imagine that theoretically we could get both in one neat package with a PS5 Pro, which I think would be welcomed by many fans and would be the preferred console to buy. I just don't know if that would be enough for Sony fans to double dip. Now, the only other scenario that I could think of, and this is a little out there, guys, a little out there, but what if the rumored Sony handheld that works in tandem with the PS5 was included with the PS5 Pro? Now, Sony would probably have to take a bit of a financial loss on the hardware if they did that, but it would certainly move units and it would really probably increase their grip on cloud gaming, which will likely be a bigger win for them than the loss you take on the hardware. So I think that's something to ponder. I don't know if they do it, but you never know. You never know, man. That's the cloud gaming sort of an untapped market, or it's starting to be tapped now. If Sony as a console manufacturer wants to get a jump sort of on everybody by releasing their own device, that might be a way to get a real strong hold on the market. So we'll see. You never know, guys. Next prediction, guys. What is Team Asobi doing? Can we get an Astro's Playroom for PSVR 2? So you made a game for PSVR 1, and I never got to play it. And that, of course, is the Astrobot game. I didn't have the PSVR 1. So I'd really like to play that game. I've heard great things about it. I think we all love the Astro's Playroom pack-in title that came with the PS5. If you guys haven't played it, you should play it. I platinumed it. I enjoyed it very much. I think a lot of people actually platinumed this game because it was so much fun. So I would like to see what's going on with Team Asobi. Even if it's taking the Astrobot game that was on PSVR 1 and porting it or upgrading it, have an upgrade path to purchase it for PSVR 2. Something like that would be really nice to like kind of hold us over until we get some brand new titles for PSVR 2. So next prediction, guys, like The Last of Us Part 2, Sucker Punch debuted Ghost of Tsushima during the summer of 2020. Again, it's been 3 years now. So a sequel being announced really isn't out of the question, right? It's been 3 years. So that's another prediction. Maybe we'll get a sequel there. Next prediction, this is my 10th one here. So Final Fantasy is having a great year, right? Like we got Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, and as of May 2nd, which was when the article came out, it was announced that the series had already sold 2 million copies. Pretty awesome for games that old. Next month, we're getting Final Fantasy 16, which from what they've shown us, like it looks like it's going to be epic on all scales, guys. Exact pre-order numbers aren't available, but Final Fantasy 16 already hit the bestseller charts on Amazon in April. So last month, it was already a bestseller, and somehow it managed to top PS5 best sellers on Amazon over Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, and NBA 2K23, which is pretty insane. So with all that said, though, there's still another Final Fantasy game, guys. One that could prove to be even more popular than the titles I just mentioned, and that's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which serves as the second title in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. Of course, many Final Fantasy fans claim that Final Fantasy VII is their favorite Final Fantasy. So, of course, completely revamping the combat, the look, the mood, the feel of the game, everything they've done from the original 1997 PS1 title has been amazing. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm excited for it. But I don't know if they will show it now, because it could go two ways, right? Like, you announce Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It could potentially, I wouldn't say hurt the sales of Final Fantasy 16, but it could definitely like bring some attention away from it. Or at the same time, like, it could just bring more hype to Final Fantasy in general. So I think it could go either way. If they have like a ton of games to show at the showcase, maybe they wait. You know, maybe we get an update on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in the fall. That's something to keep an eye out for. Maybe we'll get lucky and get an update on that. Next prediction, guys, isn't really, it's not a hard prediction, okay? Because if you're on the internet, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Reddit, you know, you go to any of the gaming websites, IGN, Push Square, you name it, you guys know this is coming. Apparently, we're getting the official reveal trailer for the new Mortal Kombat tomorrow. Be it Mortal Kombat 12, or I've also heard that it's going to simply be called Mortal Kombat. I don't know. Either way, we're supposed to be getting the reveal trailer tomorrow. So that's exciting. If you're a Mortal Kombat fan, that's something to look forward to, guys. Another prediction I got, again, this is not a bold prediction, but I think we're going to get a Final Fantasy 16 launch trailer. I think it'll be the final trailer. Obviously, like, the game's coming out in less than a month, so it would be a great time to help build more hype and continue to drive the record pre-order sales. So that would make sense to me. Next prediction, guys, PSVR 2 games. We haven't talked about it much. So I have a PSVR 2, and I am personally hoping to hear about some new games in development. Like, I'd love to see some of the best titles from PlayStation VR 1 receive an update so we can play them on the PSVR 2, maybe while we wait for some of the new bigger name titles to release on the PSVR 2. You know, like, give us Astrobot, like I mentioned earlier. How about Resident Evil 7? That was on PSVR 1. I'd love to play that. Dreams would be fun. I mean, are we allowed to ask for Bethesda titles to come to the PSVR 2 with an update, since, you know, Microsoft may or may not end up owning them? If we are allowed to, obviously I'd love to see Skyrim, Doom, and Fallout updated. And we got Blood and Truth, which, again, I didn't get to play it. Heard it was great. Hitman 3. All those games, I think, would sell well and help hold fans over until the hopefully bigger titles come out. So if I recall, Sony's original vision for PlayStation VR 2 was for many of their juggernaut titles to have a legit PSVR 2 mode available that is supposed to be just as good as the base game or better. And, like, take Gran Turismo 7 as an example. I bought GT7 on day one, and I enjoyed the game for a period of time and eventually got sidetracked and played something else, probably when the game kept going offline. And since you had to have an online, you know, internet connection, but the server was going down, I was just like, screw it, I'm playing something else. I think a lot of other people did that too, and I think Sony got review bombed on Metacritic for that. So that aside, when it was announced that it would be fully playable on the PSVR 2, I think everyone else got super excited for that. But when I finally played it, like, I couldn't believe, honestly, how much better it made Gran Turismo 7. It's crazy, but, like, after having experienced it in VR, playing it on the TV is honestly a major step down now. And I think anyone who's played GT7 on the PSVR 2, you guys know what I'm talking about. It is amazing. It's crazy. So that's what I'd like to see happen for some of other games. That would be really cool. Now, I got a few unrealistic predictions, guys, but, you know, I think they're only unrealistic to a point, because some of these I just feel like are long overdue. And one of these we've just heard rumors about forever. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about if you follow PlayStation news. And that is Bloodborne. Are we going to get a Bloodborne remake? I have the game. I have the DLC. I have yet to play the game because I've held out hope that it would either be remade, remastered, or at least released on the PS5 with a 60 FPS option and maybe a resolution boost. So I've been holding out because backlogs are a real thing. I have a lot of games in that backlog, so I can kind of afford to just like play something else and hold out hope that this game gets remade, remastered, or at least gets that boost. And obviously it's always in the rumors. It always appears. So again, was it Blue Point Games, Blue Point Studios? Maybe they're working on it. I don't know. Next, guys, and I'm sure you probably agree with me, but what the hell is Rockstar up to? This September is going to be 10 years, a decade since we got Grand Theft Auto 5, okay? So surely 10 years allows enough time, right, to create Grand Theft Auto 6. And if not GTA 6, can we get a PS5 boost for Red Dead Redemption 2, just like you did with GTA 5? Like for fans that own the PS4 version, let them upgrade it for 10, 20 bucks. And then seeing how it's a much newer title compared to GTA 5, you can just release a PS5 retail version for like 40, 50 bucks. Do it for full price. I don't care. People will buy it. I would love to play Red Dead Redemption 2 at 60 frames per second in 4K. Without those horrendous load times. So I think that would be fair, all sides considered. I think people would pay that price, and I think Rockstar would do just fine. That would be really cool to see. I don't know if it'll happen, but Rockstar has been radio silent. Am I right? Like, have you heard anything about Rockstar? What's going on over there? Last one. Again, I don't know if we're going to hear anything. KOTOR? Knights of the Old Republic? The remake? What's going on there? We have not heard anything since it was first announced, right? Like, is it too soon for us to ask for more Star Wars? Obviously, we just got the new Star Wars game. I have it. I haven't played it yet. I'm actually waiting for them to, get a patch that makes the game stable to play. Sometimes I do that. If I got something else to play, I'll wait until we get a patch that makes the game, fully playable and doesn't crash. So that would be pretty cool. I don't know if we're going to hear anything about it. But again, I haven't heard anyone mention Knights of the Old Republic, and we are supposed to be getting, a full-on remake, and that's a game I am super excited about. I bought an Xbox back in the day just to play that game, and it was actually worth it. Like, it was worth the purchase, the price of admission, right? Like, it was totally worth it. So that would be pretty cool to hear something. So there you have it, guys. Those are my predictions for the PlayStation Showcase. It'll be interesting to see if I got any of these right. Hopefully I did, because if I did, we're going to be eating good as PlayStation fans. Now, I'm sure there's some titles I didn't mention because either I forgot about them or maybe I feel like they might be announced in a different format. For instance, like Ubisoft, I don't know if they're going to do, one of their classic shows that they normally do. I know that they said they weren't going to E3, but I gotta imagine they gotta announce something. And it's rumored, of course, that we'll be getting Assassin's Creed Mirage in the fall. So probably, around the classic time, October, November, when all the big games come out. So maybe we'll see something there. But again, I don't know that it would be on the PlayStation Showcase stage, but we'll see. You never know. But again, guys, please leave some comments below. I want to hear what your predictions are. This is one of, honestly, the most exciting times of the year for me because, again, it used to always be E3 time. So it was when we got to find out about all the big games coming out around the holidays. And now that we don't have E3, I am happy to see that Sony stepped up and they're going to be the first big console manufacturer company that's actually going to do a show. And of course, I think we have an Xbox One in June, but I'm curious to hear too what Nintendo's going to do. So now that Sony started it, I think the other guys are going to have to jump in and show what games they have ready for us, hopefully, for the second half here of 2023. So if you made it to the end of the video, guys, thank you for watching all of it. Thanks for tuning in today. If you're new to the channel, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Have a great day.